Did Susan sleep well?
Yeah, I think she'll sleep soundly till morning.
Hearing that familiar voice, I felt unsteady on my feet. In the bright entrance of the hotel, holding onto John's arm and laughing was, surprisingly, Amy.
Susan, what do you plan to do?
I felt a bit angry. I want to teach those two a lesson, even though I knew it was a bit mean. David on the other end of the phone warmly agreed with me. My name is Susan Thompson. I turned 24 this year. After graduating from college, I joined a community-based bank and have been living my days as a banker. Since I was young, I've been plain and natural. Sometimes I was told I was too stiff, but that nature suited my job as a banker. I strictly adhere to the principle of never revealing a customer's crucial information or secrets to others. I rarely discuss my work with friends or acquaintances, even when my family says,
It's okay to talk a little, isn't it?
I've never once responded to that invitation. Actually, my relationship with my family hasn't been that great. I was what you might call a latchkey kid, often staying home alone until late at night since my early elementary school days. My parents, engrossed in their work, often remarked that
Susan doesn't talk much. I wonder which side of the family she gets that from.
both my parents are extroverted, and perhaps because of that, they couldn't empathize with my more reserved and introverted nature. Because of this, I have few memories of family trips when I was young, or of special gifts I received on birthdays or anniversaries. When I came home, there was almost always a $10 on the dining table, which I had to rely on for the next 2 to 3 days. This situation continued until I entered college. So, sometimes I went to bed stay hungry. It was Amy's family, our neighbors, who were concerned about my situation. They kindly offered me meals on numerous occasions. Amy herself was the opposite of me, bright and sociable. My parents often said, "Oh, how nice it would be if Amy were our daughter." She was viewed very favorably. On the other hand, Amy's parents were sensitive to my situation and feelings, always showing concern. Whenever they saw me alone, they would often invite me to their home. Thanks to that, I gradually became close with Amy, building a relationship like childhood friends. However, Amy sometimes acted superior or cold towards me, saying,
You're getting meals from my parents, you know.
She often pointed out things like this to me. Amy's father ran a major advertising agency, and she held the position of the boss's daughter. She frequently flaunted that status, openly assessing and sometimes disparaging my family's financial situation. For instance, after Amy's family returned from an overseas trip, I received a keychain souvenir from her parents. But later, Amy took it away from me. At times, I felt she was truly seeking her parents' affection. Since I too seldom received attention or affection from my family, I felt I could deeply relate to some of her feelings. Of course, I believe Amy's parents truly loved her, but perhaps an inner insecurity or something was lacking. Sensing this, I continued to accept her slightly haughty behavior. Then, talk of my marriage came up. I didn't have a specific boyfriend, and the only close male friend I had was David from high school. We were just friends, with no romantic inclinations. For someone like me with that background, the sudden mention of marriage was because my parents were concerned about my future. One day, my mother said,
I know a family with a wonderful son. Would you consider arranged marriage meeting?
I was filled with surprise and confusion. I had limited dating experience, but I was still in my early 20s and wasn't in a rush to marry. I felt I still had time. When I shared these feelings with my mother, she responded in a somewhat harsh tone.
You don't particularly have features that attract men, and you're not the type to actively pursue romance. Furthermore, hoping for a love marriage seems unrealistic. We're offering this introduction, so you should show a little more appreciation.
And my father chimed in, saying,
Susan always looks somewhat grumpy, at the very least. We want to see adorable grandchildren from you.
He added sarcastically. In this house, there wasn't a single person who could address my anxieties or questions. But while I contemplated the possibility of naturally meeting a romantic partner or spouse, in my current job, I did feel it might be challenging. Perhaps this matchmaking could be the beginning of a new chapter. Encouraging myself with that thought, I decided to take this opportunity. The man for the dating was named John Whitman. He was about 5 years older than me. He seemed to have made a name for himself as a creator in the advertising world. He was the type to initiate conversations, and his outgoing nature perfectly matched my parents' expectations. Ideally, in such arranged marriage meetings, The focus should be on getting to know each other. But my parents were so engrossed in their conversation with John that I could hardly participate. Although John's parents tactfully left early, my father somehow managed to say,
If you like our stiff-faced and expressionless daughter, we'd be very grateful.
John, with a smile, responded.
That's not the case at all. Susan has a unique charm.
Those words, implying someone found me attractive, filled my heart with a special kind of joy. Yet, without getting a chance to discuss our future in detail, our parents acted as if the marriage was decided, and we were set on the path to wed. Still, I harbored hopes and expectations for my new life with John. Once we started living together, his positive power and his approach to enjoying everything in life became evident. While his lifestyle was somewhat brilliant, knowing it was backed by a solid income gave me peace of mind. More than anything, he never missed out on showing his detailed consideration for me, which felt refreshing and comforting.
How about going to Bali for our honeymoon?
Surprised by the proposal of my first ever overseas trip, I was reassured about the marriage, seeing his occasional proactive side. Yet, deep inside, there was a shadow. It was Amy's presence. To my astonishment, John and Amy turned out to be colleagues working in the same company. Amy was thriving as the secretary to the boss of the department where John worked. I hadn't known specifically where Amy worked after our college paths diverged, but later learned she had joined my father's company. Amy began to visit our new home regularly, and her presence became a part of our daily lives. In the triangle of relationships between John, Amy, and myself, I clearly felt a bit left out. When conversations veered into company insider talks, I would naturally shift to preparing food and snacks. I had lost touch with Amy after graduating college, and reuniting with her in this way was unexpected. However, as time passed, I too had matured. I had evolved from the earlier version of myself who was always swayed by Amy's words. I had established my identity as an independent woman, and it seemed like John continued to have a close relationship with Amy both at work and at home. My workload had increased and I was busy every day, so in some ways I was thankful that Amy was there to comfort John during his lonely times.
Susan, have you prepared the next snack?
I got used to Amy's demanding tone and often answered, just a little longer, okay. Deep down, I wished that John would comment on Amy's behavior. However, while John appreciated the dishes I made, he'd immediately get engrossed in his conversation with Amy. A subtle tension lingered between the newlyweds. Still, the anticipation for our honeymoon next week was immense. I looked forward to the special time we'd spend together, hoping it would deepen our relationship and understanding of each other. But life is always unpredictable, and soon enough our expectations were put to the test. Bali, our honeymoon destination, was truly paradisiacal. It might sound banal, but the endless expanse of blue sea contrasting with the sky was breathtaking. Watching John enjoy snorkeling and jet skiing under the warm sunlight brought a smile to my face. Our time together was pleasant. While sharing meals and talking, I discovered many new facets of John. Of course, there were differences in our thinking, but I felt that we could overcome them and live together harmoniously. Despite this growing closeness, an unexpected event awaited. The third night of our honeymoon was particularly memorable. John suggested,
Let's return to the hotel a bit early tonight.
So, we left the city's nightlife and headed back. Usually, John would ask me to make tea, but that night, he surprisingly took the initiative, saying,
Leave the tea to me tonight.
He tucked out the hotel's tea set and, with unfamiliar hands, made a heartfelt cup of tea for me. As I felt our bond strengthening, I sipped the tea John had carefully prepared. The taste of the tea was slightly off. After drinking almost half of it, I noticed undissolved white powder at the bottom of the cup.
Susan, are you feeling okay?
As I looked at his face, I tried hard to hide my discomfort. No, I just feel a bit off. I'm fine. Saying that, I tried to brush off the situation. After secretly discarding the contents of my cup in the washroom, I felt a turmoil of emotions inside me. I didn't want to think it, but suspicion grew that he might have done something. As a result, I was suddenly overwhelmed with sleepiness. But because I hadn't drunk all of it, I didn't fall into a deep sleep. I decided to pretend to sleep and watch his reaction. Sorry, I feel really tired today. I'll rest for a bit. I excused myself and lay down on the bed. A moment of silence followed, during which I heard John's footsteps and breathing. He seemed to be checking if I was sound asleep. Once he was convinced, He roamed the room for a while and then quietly left. At that moment, I was flooded with mixed emotions. With no clear evidence, I was torn between suspicion and a strong desire to uncover the truth. Using information from the hotel staff, I quickly arranged a taxi and headed to the hotel John was rumored to have gone to. Throughout the journey, my mind was filled with various speculations. Can you get there as quickly as possible?
Ma'am, are you okay? You look pale.
The driver's kind words were truly appreciated, but they weren't enough to dispel my anxiety and fear. As we neared our destination, a mix of nervousness and anticipation rose. Upon arrival, I took a deep breath and asked the driver to wait. Sorry, can you wait here for a bit? I might be back a bit late. The driver nodded in agreement. Grateful for his understanding, I stepped into the hotel lobby with trepidation. There, seeing John and Amy chatting pleasantly, I was rooted to the spot in disbelief. Why was Amy here? This hotel's lobby looked simpler than the resort we were staying at. Decorations were minimal, and it seemed to be bustling with local tourists.
John, did you wait long? Sorry.
It's okay, there was an unexpected things. But Susan sound asleep.
She didn't notice?
She slept completely. I don't think she'll wake up anytime soon.
Hearing their conversation, I was so shocked that my hands began to tremble. My shock only deepened when I saw Amy getting playful with John's arm. I took out my phone and snapped a few photos of the scene. The sight of two people sharing a kiss, talking intimately, everything appeared as an unbelievable reality before me. I decided to activate the voice recorder app on my phone and record their conversation.
I have a reservation for John Whitman and Amy White. Are you two a couple?
Yes, we're actually newlyweds.
She responded with a smile.
Congratulations.
Hearing this exchange, a mix of emotions filled my heart. I hadn't imagined the relationship between John and Amy had progressed this far. I felt overwhelmed by shock and confusion at that moment. The sweet interaction between John and Amy, their innocent conversation at the hotel's front desk. All these scenes replayed in my mind, making me oscillate between reality and illusion. Witnessing their closeness, I struggled to suppress my feelings of anger and jealousy. They're not really a couple, right? I kept reassuring myself. However, their photos stood before my eyes as painfully realistic evidence. I exited the hotel and jumped into the waiting taxi. The driver, noticing my distressed state, drove in silence. Tears I hadn't been aware of streamed down my cheeks. That's when I received an unexpected message from David.
How's the honeymoon?
His words, which reflected his pure intentions without knowledge of the current situation, deeply hurt me. During high school, we were part of the same committee, spent a lot of time together, and shared our worries and joyful moments. He was always a supportive presence in my life. Now, faced with the challenge of how to convey my current tumultuous state to David, I believed that he would understand my feelings and contemplated my next move in the midst of my confusion. During our high school days, people around me began distancing themselves because of Amy's disdainful comments and attitude towards me. I felt isolated due to her cold stares and sarcastic remarks. That David was different. He didn't bother with Amy's gossip and consistently showed unwavering kindness towards me. Our relationship deepened as we went to the same university. Even though we were in different faculties, we would spend our free time talking at cafes or enjoying nights out at bars. Whenever I was troubled or anxious about Amy, David would listen intently and offer heartfelt advice. Conversations with him allowed me to express my feelings and thoughts freely and find solace. When I suddenly received a message from him, my heart raced. The moment I touched his name on my phone, a mix of anticipation and anxiety welled up inside me. As the call connected, I could hear David's voice. Taking a deep breath, I started telling him about recent events and about Amy and John. I wonder if I'm just going to accept this situation and continue being swept along by life. But honestly, I don't think I can bear living like this any longer. After pondering for a moment and letting out a deep sigh, he responded,
I deeply understand how you feel. But before making any major decisions, it's essential to take a moment to calm down and organize your thoughts. It's crucial to think about what you truly want and what's best for you.
But if I were to end things with John, I don't know how I would build my life afterward.
That might indeed be a tough choice, but you don't have to bear it alone. You have friends like me by your side. When the time comes, we'll think and support each other.
Tears flowed from my eyes. David's words made me realize the importance of moving forward, even if it's just a little. They were filled with genuine encouragement and the promise of walking this journey together. When I said, I want to hurt them, my emotions were overflowing with anger and disappointment. I was aware that this was an unusually aggressive thought for me, but David on the other side of the phone accepted my feelings.
I feel the same as you. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. For now, don't worry about them and return home safely.
When I get back home, we'll talk in detail.
Understood. Let me know if you need anything.
His words felt reassuring. I've always been introverted and not good at expressing my emotions in public. I never thought that this trait would lead to such betrayal. His words gave me the courage. I immediately returned to my hotel to pack. Among the items, I saw John's passport and wallet, which he cherished. He once mentioned that when traveling, he had a unique way of storing important items in one wallet and other things in a different one. Without a doubt, this wallet contained his most valuable possessions. Without hesitating, I decked that wallet into my bag. I also neatly packed the rest of John's belongings. With revenge against them firmly in my heart, I packed our 2 sets of luggage and headed to the hotel front desk. After checking out, I securely locked John's suitcase and decided to keep the key with me. Then, I looked for a place to safely store the suitcase and headed to the airport's luggage counter. I consolidated my belongings and boarded the plane to return home. On my way home, I received a message from David.
You came back alone, didn't you? It must have been tough. You should take a rest today.
Grateful for David's warm words, I decided to get a good night's sleep upon arriving home. Expecting numerous calls from John, I turned off my cell phone as a precaution. When I woke up at dawn, I immediately turned on my smartphone. As expected, I had many missed calls from John. Amidst this, he called again, so I decided to answer.
Susan, where are you right now?
I'm at home. I heard a friend got involved in a traffic accident and was taken to the hospital. I decided to come back immediately after hearing the news. I tried contacting you, but couldn't reach you. I thought he might buy the excuse since I had called his phone several times beforehand.
But why is my luggage missing? Why did you check out alone?
I thought there's no point in staying in that luxurious room if I was returning first. I checked out. As for your luggage, I stored it safely at the airport for unforeseen events.
Yeah, I got a call from the airport and picked them up, but I can't find the key to my suitcase. My important passport and wallet are inside. Do you know where the key is?
I don't remember locking it. Maybe the zipper broke while using it, or it got damaged from an impact. Also, where were you that day? Why couldn't I contact you? I tried so many times. He seemed unable to answer immediately. Perhaps he had something to hide.
I had something to do that day and went out.
Now's not the time. A friend urgently needs my help. We'll talk about this later.
Wait, Susan, can you listen to me for a moment?
However, I ignored that voice and immediately ended the call. The structure of that suitcase key isn't particularly complicated, and the most valuable contents, namely the passport and wallet, are already with me. Even if John tried to open the suitcase, he wouldn't find anything inside. While reissuing a passport and wallet might be a hassle, eventually, he could obtain them with the proper procedures. There's no way he would be stranded and unable to return to his country. While John was away, I was executing a certain plan, and the day he returned, he noticed the new house was completely empty and called me. From the tone of his voice, I could easily tell he was in a panic.
Hey, why is everything gone? Where are you, Susan?
I'll explain the details in person. Right now, I'm at my parents' house. Breaking the subsequent silence, I heard the roar of an engine, and soon after, a loud halt right outside the house. I opened the door to welcome him. I've been waiting for you. In a calm tone, I led him to the living room.
Tell me everything, especially why my passport and wallet are gone. Give me the reason.
Don't worry, you'll understand soon. Saying that, I quietly opened the door to the living room. Inside, there were some unexpected faces. David, my parents, Amy's parents, and to my surprise, John's parents too. Especially, the expressions on John's parents' faces were clouded with surprise and confusion.
What's going on here? Why is everyone here?
You must be John. Nice to meet you.
David spoke to him in a calm tone.
Who are you?
An old friend of Susan's.
David handed John a bundle of papers while succinctly answering him.
What is this?
I watched John's face turn pale.
From your reaction, you already know. This is undeniable evidence that you secretly used someone else's design. Upon examining your computer, much more incriminating information was found.
John had been using his position in the advertising industry to plagiarize designs and ideas from other companies. To expose this, we accessed John's computer with David's tech skills and retrieved the necessary evidence. Amy's father, who is John's boss and the president of the company, was furious about this revelation. This act was a significant blow to the company's reputation and brand image.
Unbelievable. How can you face us after committing such a betrayal?
His voice echoed in the room, leaving John speechless. I then laid out photos one by one for John to see. Pictures of John and Amy smiling at a hotel entrance, their intense gaze at each other, and their backs heading to a room. Furthermore, I played a device that recorded their conversations. You enjoyed your secret date, didn't you? The tan on John and Amy's skin indicated the warm region they enjoyed together. Amy, avoiding condemning glances, displayed indifference, yet her face clearly showed annoyance.
John, how did this happen? I can't believe you would do something like this.
His face turned beet red with a mix of shock and anger. On the other hand, John's mother was visibly shocked, gazing intently at her son.
Amy, what were you thinking? We can't face everyone after this.
After Amy's mother's reprimanding words, Amy slowly raised her face, looking irritatedly at her smartphone. No remorse or apology was visible on her face. Instead, she displayed a defiant attitude, as if she had done nothing wrong.
It's all Susan's fault, isn't it? John and I got close because she's plain and boring. I don't see why I should be blamed.
Amy's words had a distinctive provocative nuance. Her audacity and confidence were simply astonishing. At that moment, my parents calmly interjected in the conversation. They wore composed faces, trying to downplay the issue.
Youth sometimes errs. Amy is beautiful, and she has a family background. It would be a waste to break ties over a small misunderstanding.
Indeed, Susan might not be as flashy as other women, and she's quite plain, so it's understandable if she's cheated on, isn't it?
It pained me to hear my mother say this so casually. Her response was far from what I had expected, and I was shocked. At that moment, David stepped forward, frowning and glaring at my parents.
How could you belittle your own daughter like that? How can you say something like that? Do you realize how hurt Susan is?
Following that, Amy's parents stood up in my support.
I don't intend to meddle in others' affairs, but Susan is a remarkable and steadfast woman. There's absolutely no reason for her to be cheated on.
Amy surely has aspects to reflect upon. Where did she learn to go after someone else's husband?
Amy's mother's words carried a stern tone. Surrounded by the three of them, tears welled up in my eyes, with a feeling of gratitude. Approaching me, she saw me with a deeply sincere expression.
Susan, I can't find words to apologize, but I genuinely am sorry. As for the divorce and alimony, we'll follow your wishes.
Wait, divorce? What are you talking about?
John looked at me with an expression of pure astonishment. He clearly hadn't anticipated the consequences of his actions to escalate this way. But did he expect me, the wife he cheated on during our honeymoon, to just stay silent? Such naivety couldn't possibly hold.
Amy, you're involved in this matter too. Therefore, you need to take responsibility.
Why am I the bad one here? I'm not the main culprit.
As Amy shouted back defiantly, John, looking panicked, retorted,
What are you saying now? It's about both of us, isn't it?
The exchange between the two made the room's atmosphere even tenser. As a result, John was strongly urged by his parents to proceed with the divorce. The dates for the legal procedures were quickly set, and Amy was also invited to participate in the meeting. I intend to demand a hefty alimony from them. News reached me that John faced issues at work, impacting his future career. Regarding Amy, her relationship with John became known in the company, jeopardizing her position. On the other hand, a bright development occurred in my life. Unexpectedly, I ended up deciding to marry David. Never had I imagined considering another marriage in such a short span. But life brings unpredictable events.
Actually, I've had feelings for you for a long time. Instead of getting hurt by someone like John again, why not start a new life with me?
Shocked by his unexpected confession, I looked into his sincere eyes, pondered, and then nodded. While my relationship with John was short-lived, I had known David well since high school and was familiar with his character and personality. I had never imagined that he felt this way about me. but I could tell his words were filled with genuine feelings. The stirring in my heart made me realize that I too had some kind of emotions for him. Subsequently, my relationships with my parents and Amy faded away. Since I wasn't relying on them for financial support or aid, I felt no need to associate with those who hurt me any longer. On the other hand, Amy's parents were incredibly kind, treating me as if I were their own daughter. John's parents also cared for me warmly, and I still occasionally hear from them. I have no intention of getting involved with John or Amy anymore, and memories of them have gradually faded. By completely severing ties with them, I reclaimed myself and began to feel true freedom. I've since held a firm belief that my future life will certainly be bright and rewarding.